When the quill in one's hand stills, unable to write, one must only look upwards from the blank page to find a suitable muse. Was that perhaps Tharic's purpose when she took up her quill and penned a grand book not just centered on herself, but on her people?
You look bothered.
Oh, I didn't think... is it that obvious?
Yeah, with those eyebrows, your needles aren't the only things that are threading the seams.
Yayo was correct, and I grew conscious of my clenched jaw.
So, what's up?
Yayo further pressed.
What's on your mind?
We were at camp. The dizzying encounters against the Lich's minions were unkind to our garb, so I had sequestered myself against a rock and asked Arcat for her shroud to have it mended while she got some rest. Melinius and Strege peeled off to get supplies, though not without leaving us a campfire starter. Across from us, Etete stirred against the sound, empty bottle of Hual loosely in her hand. In my quiet moments, I am thankful to have a good 2 pairs of hands and needles to busy myself with. But with the warmth of the fire awash on my face, my mind was left to wander. What Melinius said back at the library was said in the heat of the moment.
About the expedition being commissioned by Zarlamander? Yeah?
I do not discredit her information, I continued. But my real purpose for embarking upon this expedition is to immerse myself in my culture. My acceptance of the assignment from my mentor was the path of least resistance to obtain what I had wanted. But to pen a Goloin's history of the world asks me to be ignorant. Beside me, Yayo sighs, shoulders slumped. This book is not to act as my autobiography. I fear I cannot pen what I feel because my perspective as an observer to everyday life would take away from the heart of the people who live here. Speaking too much of myself felt strange. How I wish so ardently to be a seamless piece slotted into this grand cultural tapestry, so much larger than myself. I cannot continue to hold this book with the title it has, to pen the history of my people, knowing what I know now. I cannot write the history of Goloins because using that term asks of me to flavor our culture in a light more palatable to humans.
And outsiders.
Without missing a beat. It feels disrespectful, to put it in the simplest terms.
Totally, I hear you.
I cannot return to my mentor as the same person I was. Not with this. I touched the spine of the book to my forehead. Not when I know that I am Keldin.
And tell you what, why don't I suggest something?
Yayo took a quill and scratched something in one of her pages. As Yayo ripped a page, joined its corners together and folded it neatly in half, that half was folded and ripped too. I watched her fish a binding adhesive from her bag and smeared a thin layer onto the cover of the book I carried.
There. Let's call it a temp solution till we get you a new cover design. What do you say?
With astonishment, I witnessed Yayo's solution. She replaced the word Goloin on the cover with Keldin. I had been called earlier today to go and visit Etete's, I suppose, archive of books. She said that she needed some additional help sorting things through, and I was actually really excited to do so. When it comes to actually looking through old texts and feeling nostalgic about these stories and lives that we hadn't experienced, it was a joy that we both shared, and I think she wanted the one-on-one time. Guitar, how are you doing today?
Oh, got you this. Hey, come on in. Hang on. I stopped him for a moment as his body, though he deftly moved around the books. I had experience in the past with Yayo having similar troubles with how sometimes the books got stacked up like this. I immediately ran to excuses. I'm sorry about how it looks here. I don't like so many of these texts being on the ground, but I mean, there's so
fine.
many. We have so many new ones.
I must say, This is something of a habit I've seen from you, Etete, so I suppose I wasn't necessarily surprised. Although, this has been, there have been a pretty large number of new acquisitions, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I've been really happy. I don't have space on my bookshelves, and this, I need more bookshelves.
Well, I'm sure we can find some more. Oh, maybe we can do another jaunt back to the Lich's Manor, and maybe there's some kind of gilded bookshelf that is just full of, I don't know, trinkets and globes that we can clear out and bring back here. We were pretty successful last time. We only ran into one murderous bird.
Yeah, I mean, we always run into her again.
Oh, that's true. That is something that could happen again.
But yeah, I think some bookshelves would go great. Gotta get the elders' books on it. To be fair, have moved the elders' books up. I've tried it. It feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
It feels weird to prioritize who deserves to be on a bookshelf based off random factors.
Oh.
But that's why I've sort of been sorting by how old the book is. It needs to be in a nice, sturdy place.
Actually, I think that's a very egalitarian way of organizing it. Especially since these are the lives of ancestors upon ancestors. Maybe going by date is the best way to look at it. That way, if we want to know about a specific era, we know where to look for in the bookshelf.
Probably so. And again, it's some of these are coming apart at the phrase. Feels like I'm touching spider webs. But let's here. You wanted to help with that, and we are gonna go through. There might be a few of the ancestors' texts in here as well. But I moved forward, having poured a cup of tea and having previously already gotten hungry and eaten the stack. I still once again moved over to the side and then crawled off again and pat the chair for my guest.
As Etete moved off the chair, I decided to gracefully adjust myself, moving around the space, and made myself comfortable. I didn't even have to swipe off that many crumbs from the seat.
I plopped down and immediately stared across. So, where will we start?
I mean, I suppose we can't really go and put these books in order unless we go and take our time to read them first, and then go and find, what decade they should appear in. So we're gonna have to read these really closely. Oh no.
Yeah, I guess there's no option. We're gonna have to peel them open.
All right, let's go and start with this one. I like the cover of this one. Ooh, this one, it seems to belong to a Goloin called Miterek Tinareka. Okay.
Ooh, that's interesting. Look at the binding. It doesn't quite look as this is a newer one. I guess we're starting out with something new, but even though that, I'm not sure quite how new it is. It seems more it's not the age, it's the build. Look at the way it looks.
Yes, this is well, I would say that this is human bookbinding. This might have been a life book that wasn't made within the Goloins, but bought. And blank, too, for him to fill in, so he must have spent quite a fair amount on it.
Oh.
Okay, let's get into it. I've noticed that one of the small yet persistent changes that my fellow Heldin have struggled to adjust to is the change in climate. The gloom of the mountain's tunnels and the humidity of the forest that surround it are a starkly contrasting memory to the crisp and temperate air of the open fields around St. Celine. Oh, that's where I'm from. Oh, that's lucky.
Guess it is.
A warm, dry wind that feels like running the back of your hand against sun-baked stone. Indeed, the suns are starting to dip behind the great mountain, and the summer heat that drills its way into the earth begins to release in a prolonged exhale. I shall write while the evening light still permits. It would not do me well to write by lamplight. Not because it would be a struggle. The lantern and pole the doormen are afforded by the estate is a simple thing to carry in my forearms, leaving my lower arms to wield pen and paper. But I've observed through my time working here that, Mendifurum activities seem to unnerve humans, even if they don't voice their discomfort. Their idiom of many hands make light work was not conceived with a Heldin in mind, I suppose. Oh, that's a new word to me, Mendifurum. I suppose, well, it's like a menditat, like many, right?
I guess so. It doesn't, I might be surprised to tell you, it doesn't actually seem quite familiar to me either.
Hmm. I suppose if it's Menda, like Menditat, maybe Mendifera means like many armed. That would.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, that would make sense. I suppose without too many Goloins around, it would probably be a more of a something to note. Need its own word, I
Mhm.
guess.
Anyway, as the sky dims, I can hear activity sparking to life within the frontmost manor of the estate. A single-floored building, existing only to receive guests, but indeed still an architectural marvel. A glass roof covered with a grid of wooden shutters, able to flood the space with daylight or precisely bathe a single spot in the moon's glow. In my initial tour of the grounds as a new hire, the chief butler was proud to tell me that the great chandelier the manor housed was carefully made from faceted gems mined from the heart of the mountain. Perhaps it will remind you of home, he told me. I fear he is unaware of the finer details of our relations with the humans some years past. Tonight's soiree is with the Agricultural Guild, I'm told. Not the farmers themselves, but those who have sown law into the land, ensuring what's grown and raised is in harmony with its neighbors. Every vineyard I see, each herd of tauntauns has been assigned its correct place and size. I do find it admirable. The environs of the mountain allowed for little farming, and the rules of hunting were set by the hunters themselves. We learned our lessons around overhunting firsthand, and spent years easing the disdain and ire of the mountain for our hubris. Perhaps when we have our next days of rest, I shall introduce the idea of the soiree to my beloved. Bring a fine cut of meat, adorned with cloves, tarragon, and crushed nice, and dance the night away in the moonlight. Oh, how sweet.
That is sweet. Okay, what's a tauntaun, though?
Okay. I've actually heard this one before. I think this is I guess this is definitely a Helden word, but it's a newer one. So the way that my parents tell it anyway, when we were kind of new to being external to the mountain and meeting all of the variety of new animals that we wouldn't have normally seen,
Yeah.
I believe it was used to describe like all hooved animals or like all farmed animals, and it's just they're all the same thing, so they're all
Oh,
tauntauns.
that's pretty good. Oh,
I guess this means I don't know which specific animal he means here, but I guess it's one that you'd farm for meat or shear for like for fabric or something like that.
huh. I think it's very fun, actually. I didn't really expect you would be, or in any way, I'd be seeing glowing words from outside. It didn't really come to mind, but it makes sense.
After all, I suppose it's an entirely new culture that was formed
Mm,
after we left our old culture.
yeah.
It stayed with us a little bit and changed a little bit too. I suppose once I hesitated and looked away, it was something that was going to happen, but I was still feeling already a little sad to admit it. I suppose when my time here is done within the mountain and I return home, all the things that I've learned and seen here will change me and the culture I'll bring back.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like with the name, right? We have Helden as our name, but many are known as Goloin, and even with if Helden had a resurgence, I'm not sure the overarching peoples like us would all click by the name either. In a bard sense, both names, no matter how you consider it, are just for our little group for the most part.
I'm still not sure whether I want to call myself a Goloin or a Heldin. I quite like both. I'll probably end up using both
Yeah.
interchangeably. Oh, but I do want to kind of point out, this guy is incredibly posh sounding for the job he's doing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's a lamp by post thing? Is he just a guard?
I suppose he is. If he's outside the estate and not inside having that soiree, I say, wiggling my hands, then he's probably not in an especially fancy position. But maybe he's a human enthusiast. Oh, there was a word for, I suppose it wasn't very polite, to describe Goloins who really, really were into human culture.
Yeah?
A humalic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a classic, yeah.
He seemed to be a bit of a humalic then, in the positive sense, not in the pejorative.
Well, I'll thank this Humilic for his wonderful gift of new knowledge to me.
What book do you want to read next?
I think there's an excerpt here. I'll try this one out. This one's got some loose pages. Looks like it wasn't sort of separated out from its life book. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but let's take a look. At last it happened. Gara and I were eating our final meal for the deal when one of my fellow scouts returned with the news of a storm approaching the mountain. Immediately, I stood and passed my bowl of whatever it was to the Goloin next to me. Gara, please bring a spare shawl, leave any metal on you at home, and meet me outside the village as fast as you can, I said. She looked at me as if I had suddenly had a fifth arm. The confusion would soon turn to anger, I knew, but there was no time. We have a long way to go and not much time for you to doubt me, Kinyat. Now go! Without anything more left, no doubt earning stares from my regular Goloins around, but I didn't care. I don't care. To be brief, we made it outside with little trouble. The usual humidity had already been blown away by the wind, dropping the temperature noticeably. Near the gate is a small game trail I discovered in my youth, which we began to ascend upwards. It had little practical use outside my purposes, since it veered away from the usual approaches travelers would take to come to the mountain. Even high up in the canopy was too thick to determine much of anything that was close to the mountain to bother about. Katalf, what are we doing? Gara asked me. Something very important, Gara, and you'll thank me later for not telling you. I doubt that will work, she muttered. I never told her how good my hearing is. I understand, really, how she felt, to spend all the time learning difficult skills and knowledge from another with strict standards, overcoming them all and feeling self-confident again, only to still get treated like you still don't know anything at all. It's pride, really, but I still have much more to teach her. She doesn't know everything, and I don't want her to get eaten by some wild boomin because I eased up on her. Eaten by a wild boomin. Wow.
Right?
Okay. I think I'm getting the time period. Let's keep going. The rain finally began to fall on us when we broke the tree line. Quickly, I led her up the slope towards a tiny cave with a view of a nearby ridge. Once inside, I told her to wait while I prepared the lesson, then I returned outside. The sky above was a ceiling of storm clouds now, but only a portion of the sky was covered. It allowed the setting sun far away to cast light underneath the clouds sideways into the rain. This somehow made colors appear in the rain that I don't really understand how that works. Some kind of magic, I'd image. Anyhow, I'm getting distracted in the minutia. I set up the metal lure I stashed prior from amongst the rocks and returned to the cave. So what is the lesson tonight? Feel falling water outside make colors? Gara mocked. No, this is more important than colors, Gara. We're about to watch the sky collapse, I answered. What? The sky doesn't collapse. It can't collapse. Outside the mountain plays by its own rules, right? That's what you said. It does, but some things are the same. The Oria who brought me up here during the storm and showed me. If you bring some long metal thing up high above anything else, then the sky will collapse onto that thing for a brief moment and destroy it. So now the opportunity has come for me to show you. She looked at me for a long time. Processing, I believe, as she didn't say anything, which even made me feel awkward standing there, so I leaned against the cavern wall and looked at the ridge. You dragged me out here, enduring hours of walking and climbing when we could be asleep, to stand in a cave and to watch the sky collapse outside together, she asked then said. Where do I need to look? I pointed towards the top of the ridge, and we watched in silence. Her face was expressionless when I glanced her way. I must say that it began to feel like a Kinyat again. Foolish. There was little practical to this experience for her to know. This was needlessly dangerous. I wanted to connect with her like I did the Oria who taught me, and this was the only thing I had yet to try. Well, don't look directly at the ridge, it will be very bright. And also cover your ears, I said. Why? She covered her ears. This close, the collapse will be... I was stopped as the sky suddenly collapsed in front of us. The sound is similar to a booming weapon going off, but endlessly loud. The echoes of it bounced around the mountain's craggy peak and ridges as if an army were around us. It took some time to get my hearing back, but when I looked at Bagara, I saw a face of utter joy and delight. The sort of glee a child discovers something new, or when a Kinyat finally masters a song they were learning to sing. Today was a good day.
Oh, wow. What a fantastic entry. I mean,
Yeah. Mhm.
I love the time period of knowing that the idea of a monstrous booman that could eat you with gigantic teeth.
It's
Oh, actually, I never really asked. Since you're, I suppose, the village storyteller, did you have something of a mentor when you were growing up?
well, I didn't have a mentor because there was no one really left to teach. The last person was, well, equivalently was Tharek. So reading her stories was always sort of like my mentorship program. So, and then that way I guess you could see I've always been mentored by the books. And so, yeah, that's sort of it. This is why it was really nice to find it, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting to go and see master and student or mentor and student relationships in texts like this. You get a really good impression of how a culture treats its elders and its young, and what kind of skills that they found important to share. And inventing, or not necessarily inventing, but discovering lightning rods is a really fascinating thing to find in these texts. That definitely caught me by surprise.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising. And do they use that for stuff back in Saint Selen?
Channeling electricity. They've been doing some experiments into the applications of it. It's a really large source of power, but weirdly enough, absent physics can generate the same amount of motion or energy in a way that is, in a way, slightly safer.
Oh,
Just a touch.
I guess besides the, what is it called again? The bad feeling that's after when you use it.
Oh yeah, the absent radiation. Yeah, that is the dangerous part for sure. Although at least that's after you try and use it and not while you're trying to. There have been people that have been struck by the sky collapsing or lightning, and they've immediately died.
I see. It's ripping a bandage off, or it's peeling it slowly. Then.
Discoveries can be dangerous.
Oh well, one of the things I always thought was interesting about this was how you can tell in the story how the Orya is always so concerned about how their Kenyat thinks. It's cute, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose everybody is always worried a little bit about how the people that are important to their lives think of them. And, well, you wouldn't want to frame yourself as too scary or too stern. I started to think about Zarlamander Efflekram as I was explaining relationships between mentor and student. Not all mentors are necessarily ones that you feel like listening to for the long term.
Yeah. Well then, let's see. What do we want to read next?
Oh, this seems like another relatively short entry, removed from its original life book, but should still be readable.
Actually, I kind of want to try this one. I had it earmarked earlier. One moment. I dug through the books, ended up pulling out one from the assembled, and sort of plopped it right in front. Okay, check this out.
Oh,
It's actually a bit more sturdy.
elaborately done, with
Yeah.
like illustrations too.
Yeah, I thought, since we were just kind of talking about it, I would think this one has, from what I've read a bit, there's an excerpt in here that I think you'd like. This is a life journal that sort of takes a bit more history in it throughout, and it's got a weird mentorship adjacent scenario I think you might find quite interesting.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay.
All right, Garginus, if you're ready, we start with a recipe.
Okay. Well, I suppose learning new recipes is always exciting to do. Let's go and check this one out.
Ratat's special mix. Spring water, make sure clean. Sacraberry, a bunch. Fresh dirt.
Wait, hold
Move
on.
outer shell for... No, hold on. Let's hear them out.
Okay.
Remove outer shell from berry. Mash together, collect juice and pulp. Add equal parts all ingredient in the vessel and sear. Bury until swarm forms above the site. Result should be usable. Substitute for gem hole. Do not consume by itself. Worse than booby drink. Only used for cooking. Hunt left early morning. No risky paths. Wall by bridge collapse. A big fuss. It will pass. Orya Olicart heard about Radat's mix. Wants to make a bunch for Hunter's return. Going to use rotted wall for a big fire. Told her it tastes bad. Wants it anyways. Find a way to make it edible. More water? No taste. No effect. Bad breath. More berry? Couldn't keep it down long enough to tell. More dirt? No notes. Figure out before hunters get back. And it seems that about several pages seem to go missing at this point. But looks like at this point we get to this. Hunters should have been back yesterday, but they didn't. Hope they are alright, but we need more time. A couple more suggestions. Bugs? No. Bury and sand? No. Swap dirt with gravel? No. Swap dirt with sand? No. Different dirt? Making a crock? Mixed with gem wall? Replace entirely with gem wall and hope they don't notice? Making a bread? Not bad. No effects though. Add paper? Boil before burial? Boil after? Boil during? How? Ask Broke for help. The hunters are back. No deaths, but not as fruitful as we hoped. Orya Olicart is relying on us to succeed. We have only a short while before we show her what we have. Broke is back, at least, I will ask. No fire last night. We had a few ideas, but couldn't make anything that Orc could stomach. Sata. Ratata's upset with me. Like it wasn't his big mouth that was bragging from the mix. I've got nothing more to say to him. Food is getting too low. They're going to be sending out for the hunt early, I am certain. Lower camp flooded. Drained down the river before it got too bad. It was funny to watch, though. Brought Gual to all, but the ones stuck waiting around on their own beds, I bet. A trader came through today, looking for weapons. Had more than enough food for us, and if there's anything we have in surplus, it's weaponry. We bought him out. Hunt was pushed back, too. This is a kind of crev that would have been nice while Orya Olicart had us working without sleep on that failure project. And more pages go out. Some series of rooms. Get in while Quatak is doing their writing. Hug right wall. Should be enough room between rock and barrel. Hide till gone. Try to get crate full of fruit. A few valuables for Hoo-Hoo. At least 4 gem wall. As much grain as can carry. No water needed. Falls from sky. Meat. One page has been ripped out here. Huh. This is pretty interesting. It kind of goes all over the place with the missing pages, but you can see it where...
Using it to kind of file your day-to-day notes instead of as like a linear diary is very interesting.
That's what makes the next part quite interesting, actually. It's mostly like this throughout, but then you get a whole stretch here where it just... Well, why don't we just read it? Here. My name is Wanatak. I haven't written down something like this since I was learning to write my own name, so sorry if it's a bit messy. I'm a Goloin. I guess I can't be sure whoever is reading this know what that is, so I suppose compared to Boomy, we're shorter, have more arms. Hopefully that's descriptive enough. Back home, I was a cook. I lived with my mother, Brelk, until recently. I'm not doing too well right now. I don't know where I am or where to go. Plus, I'm soaking wet. I've heard of rain, but I didn't get the impression it was happening all the time. Even with all the water, nothing seems to cool down. It's all misty and the air sticks to my lungs like gem wall. This has been a very bad first impression. I slipped on my way down from the tunnel exit. It wasn't too steep, but the rain made it too slick to right myself. I could only get my balance when the rocks evened out into the dirt. Most of the bottles have been smashed. I found what seemed like a path not far from where I fell, but it only led to an ugly old shack. I've been waiting for so long in the rain, and I don't have the energy to go back the way I came. It's Boomy size and only half protected from the rain, but half will have to do. There's a stone fire pit, but everything is too wet to get a flame, much less keep it going. Currently, I'm sitting in some kind of attic space, probably just meant for storage, but it's dry and better suited for someone like me. Plus, it isn't missing any walls. First time I felt safe in a while. I'm going to lay down for a while. My eyes are so strained from the light. If this is my last entry, you've probably also found my body, so apologize for my description of a Goloin from before. It was not necessary. Some pages were ripped out here. Golo Golo. Not quite dead yet, but I wouldn't count it out so soon. I woke up to darkness. I only intended to rest for a short while, but I guess my body had other plans. The rain has stopped and the air is more tolerable. Cooler than it was, but still on the warm side. Still, being waterlogged for as long as I have been saps the heat out of you like an orc with any mood-altering drink. Fire takes first priority. Dried kindling is still at a premium at the moment. I was able to find some dead branches that were usable, but even chopped to shavings, I couldn't hold an ember long enough to flame to grow. Thankfully, I just so happen to have a book full of exceptionally flammable pages that has managed to stay perfectly dry. Most other Goloins would rather freeze to death than rip up their own journal like this, but I guess it has already become something of a habit for me. No point in stopping now. The fire is burning now, not by much, and not much warmer than a few candles. But it's something. I'm not shivering like I was, so I can at least write while I wait for the flame to grow and my clothes to dry. Let's start with inventory. Got a bag with 8 spuds and 2 apples. The spuds are fine, but the apples got smashed when I slipped down under the mountain. Everything inside is sticky and juicy now. A bag of sacroberries, they are also mostly smashed now. Not great for eating, but I suppose if I live long enough to run out of ink, I'll have a backup. Only 1 bottle of Gemhall survived the tumble, which is more than I figured. Our shrouds are not meant for their impact dampening, but maybe they should be. Half a sack of grains, damp but usable. Lastly, my mother's hunting kit. Part of it, at least. A small pan with cooking supplies, fire starter, her axe, and her spear. If it can be called a spear anymore. The shaft split during the fall. Now it's little more than a knife. And that's everything. Besides my shroud and clothing, of course, and this journal. This is very bad, and I'm a fool for even considering this. I should have just stayed home. I snuck out too easily, too. The whole time I was hoping something would go wrong. Anything. Let the human come out and beat me half to death. Let me get lost. Just the sight of a Satatanara, and I would go running home. I would gladly accept any punishment Orya Oldikop gave me for stealing. Anything to let me be nothing but a foolish Kenyat running away from home. But no. I had to choose the single quietest 13 minutes in the caves I've ever seen, and now there's no turning back. The sky is gaining some color. I haven't really been concerned with looking. Everything has been quite overwhelming, but now the sky is cleared and the night is coming to an end. In the accounts I've read, the sky is supposed to be blue, but that isn't accurate. It was a dim blue at the start, sure, but now it's staggering orange and yellow. It's frightening. Is this normal? I will be hiding now. I'm a picky eater. Trait that, as far as I know, has never been seen in a Goloin.
Well, that's not true.
Yeah. Thankfully, being surrounded by folks who don't care much for the specifics in a meal means they're much quicker to trade away all their good stuff. But this gets harder when times are tough. Which is what brings me to mind now. Things are dire, and the further I can stretch what I have, the better my chances are at finding a more reasonable living situation before I keel over. Of course, the first step is rocks. I popped out of my hiding spot once the sky was blue again and took a whole walk around the mountainside. And guess what? Gobro. All of it. Not a chance. I'll be eating my left hands before I touch that. Moss, on the other hand, I can do. It's a bit of a trek, but discovered a small ravine with a river running through it, the far side of which is covered with a rich green moss. As soon as I found it, a handful was already in my mouth. It's squishy like a cooked egg and tears like fat flesh. It's the first taste of Wallach I've had since I left home. I brought back as much as I could carry, but I must admit I've been picking at it the whole way back. I'll have to return for more, but I need to rest first. You know, I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to be addressing when I write these. Like I said before, I'm not much of a journaler. When I was younger, the older Goloins taught me that our life journals tell the story of our life. As essential to Goloin as breath, they would say. I didn't internalize any of that. All I understood was that this book was apparently tied to my life forever. A book that notably was quite limited in its page count. Being young, I was scared to use up too much space as I wrote, assuming once I ran out, it would be lights out for old Wanatak, as old as a Goloin could be at age. 123 pages, which, of course, I counted. Still, no matter how many margins I scribbled, space was bound to run out. By the time the end drew near, I was jumpy mess. I played shut up in my room for hours, only leaving when Mother had returned to search for food, back when foraging was more effective than hunting. When I reached that final page, it all came crashing down. A bug had spooked me while I was alone, and I was so tense with nerves. The next thing I knew, I was stampeding around the village like a Boomy had found us, screaming and crying like I was going to die right there. Which I suppose in my mind, I was. I had managed to evade them for upwards of 20 minutes, but by the time they had wrangled me, I was too afraid to speak clearly. They had to retrieve my mother to calm me down. She explained how my life wasn't literally tied to the book. In fact, she had a new one ready for me for some time, but I was taking so long to fill the first she hadn't given to me yet. After that, I had a new nickname for a while, Hikmel, after a small beast of the ice fields where the Goloin originate. It could vary its temperature in such a way that could melt ice and freeze it directly to its body as an armor and melt it once more for a slippery getaway. That's interesting.
That's fascinating. A way of building your own icy shroud in that kind of way.
Also, that little story about that, the thing. I can relate to that a little bit. It's
Running out of
embarrassing, but it
pages.
happens. So,
Mhm,
I don't think I ever thought I'd die from that, but I did get incredibly worried about it for a little bit when I was writing my first scroll. Uh, anyways, long story short, I never really understood the nuances of journaling, and I was too embarrassed to pursue assistance. The last thing I wanted was a new name to share with any creature who couldn't read. For the sake of being consistent, regardless if it was correct, I will be giving you a name. Do not ask who or what this name is referring to, because I do not know. Could be a book itself, could be whoever finds my life journal after I die, could be a figment of my imagination as I lose my mind. Until my fate is sealed, I will be calling you barbecue, like the boomy food. I've only heard of it, but it's supposed to have quite the unique taste. A bit long, though. Let's call you BB for short. Golo Golo, BB. Is that a real food?
Oh, well, yes. It's a way of, like, cooking meat, and you put a sauce, a condiment, on it to make it give this big smoky taste, this smoky flavor. A lot of humans are very picky about how they do their barbecue. Apparently, nobody else can do barbecue correctly aside from you, as the culture around it.
I see. That is familiar to me. Anyways. The rain began while I was waiting, which is a shame, because I was starting to get tired of sitting and was going to return to the mossy ravine. I hate to admit it, but I did have an idea as I was eating my first handfuls of the stuff, and I just so happened to have a bag of sacroberries I have no particular intention of eating. It may be time to give the old recipe another shot, now with a new ingredient. Another round of Radat's special mix has been brought into the world. I haven't tried it yet, but there are some hiccups in the process. I wasn't sure how fresh the rainwater was, but it seems to have worked fine. The main issue, however, is the lack of bugs. I don't know if it's the weather or surface insects just don't care for the smell, but the usual indicator for best fermentation wasn't going to work. So I had to take an educated guess. I think I may have left it too long, but it didn't seem like it was going to explode, so that's good. Perhaps the moss is even it out somehow? I'm for the taste test. Before I even tasted it, something was off. The liquid inside was thick like tar and a similar color. The smell was so sickeningly sweet that I could feel a scratch in my throat develop as I breathed it in. It was too thick to drink, so I stuck a finger in and licked it off. The best description I could give you is honey-coated leather. So cloyingly sweet and rich with a slightly metallic taste underneath it all. I'm willing to call this one a failure. First thing in the morning, we gather moss. Then I suppose it's time to get moving away from this dilapidated shack. Okay, Garginus, get ready.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to help read, because I'm not quite sure how to read this next part. Lack experience. So just
No, it's oh gosh, I see. Well, actually, I am familiar with this accent, so I'll do my best to go and cover it.
Okay.
I'll take over. Guitar, BB. When I woke up this morning, I was not alone. As I slept, a boomy wandered in and helped himself to the fireplace. I didn't know they could be so quiet or so oblivious to my presence. He didn't think twice about the fresh embers in the fireplace. He just sat down and put his own wood on. I might have slept through the whole thing if the large beast hadn't accompanied him, hadn't let out a thunderous sneeze. Now, we Goloins don't get very buddy-buddy with humans very often. But even among the other villages of the mountain, our village has always been particularly hateful. As much as I wish I could say I had thought my actions through, I may have jumped to cold-blooded killing a bit fast. I could hear the boomin humming gently, but I couldn't get a good look without potentially revealing myself. But I had the height advantage. So, gathering all the courage a Goloin warrior should have, I jumped down, plunging towards the boomy with my mother's broken spear. To my credit, it was an effective strategy and the point stuck true. However, I failed to do any real damage. I was quickly flung off, landing quite close to the roaring flame. I held my mother's hatchet between myself and the boomy, preparing for a retaliatory strike, but nothing came. "Gave me a right fright," he said, holding his hand up to his head. "Didn't think anyone had the guts for a place like this. Would've knocked." The firelight let me get a decent look. I've heard of some ridiculous-looking boomies, and this one had to stump them all. Baggy pants tied up to the knees, an overcoat long enough to reach the ground, all in a checkered pattern of purple and yellow so bright it practically glowed. On his head was a hat of the same color, adding another head and a half of height. now crumpled slightly as the crescent head of the spear was unable to pierce, and instead crushed down on it, displacing a bright white feather perched at the top. For a moment, I was so thrown off by the strange boomie's clothing that I wasn't sure what to do next. The trance broke when the boomie wrenched my mother's spear free from the hat and examined it. I yelled out for him to put it down, trying my best to sound formidable. After the words left my mouth, I could feel my face contort as I realized how silly I sounded. Nothing could be less intimidating. Just as my embarrassment began to boil over, he delicately flipped the spear around and held it out to me. I grabbed the spear and shuffled towards the nearest hole in the wall, preparing to run if I needed to. As soon as I moved out of the way of the fire, he went right back to what he was doing. I was too confused by his demeanor to remember what I was even angry about. I couldn't see a weapon on him. The closest option would be this shiny metal trumpet at his side, but his clothing drew the eye so easily. I can't imagine how he'd walk through the woods like that. Isn't it dangerous? He poked at the fire with a stick, crushing the burnt-through wood to hot coals. He sat down the stick and turned to me, declaring himself as Milton and offering a hand. I did not shake or offer my name. After a moment, he lowered his hand and an awkward silence set in. He pulled out a folded cloth bundle and sat it down, revealing a few pieces of food. A chunk of white cheese, a bit of grain bread, and 2 eggs. He apologized for not having enough of a proper breakfast, but offered to share what he did, as he would be resupplying himself before he needed to eat again. I perked up at that, catching the implication of civilization nearby. I finally broke my silence, asking where he was going, brandishing the spear in a vaguely threatening manner. He gladly informed me that the nearest village was less than a half-day's walk away. He promised to tell me the way after we ate. It was frustrating, but I agreed. He held up my pan, which I had left by the fire. I allowed him to use it, and he began cooking, cracking an egg into it and letting it sizzle. I kept my distance and watched as he toasted the bread against the hot coals and spread the cheese across it, topping with the egg and transferring it back to the cloth. Using a dull knife, he cut it in half. The cheese was gooey and the yolk was gelatinous, but it was just firm enough to keep from leaking onto the cloth as he cut through it. I was worried. I worried he might catch me licking my lips in anticipation, but his attention was elsewhere. He had a close eye on the 2 pieces of toast with a concerned look on his face. One half had noticeably more egg than the other. He thought about who to give which piece. After a time, his expression softened, and he slid both halves to me. I had already eaten most of it before the idea of poisoning came to mind. I watched the whole cooking process and hadn't seen anything strange, but cruelty can be crafty. For several minutes, I waited for something to feel off and to suddenly fall over. All I got was the warm feeling of good food. As I ate, the man talked about himself, I suppose tried to coerce me into a back and forth. He kept calling himself something, but I forgot what he said. By his description, it seemed like he was some kind of courier, bringing all sorts of letters between the nearby village with his dear friend, Queen Mildred. He gestured to the beast he entered with, now sitting on a patch of wet dirt. It was oval-shaped, and even laying down was taller than me. There were pink dots all across its dark grey body, and 2 large tusks protruded from each side of its maw. It also wore boots of the same bright colour as the boomie. Whatever it was, I suppose she was the queen of them. He told me a bit about the shack they were in. According to the townsfolk, it used to belong to a huntsman and his family, who all died in a number of some gruesome ways. Now they haunt the building, so any who enter will be sure to die just the same. The boomman described this as nothing but hot air. Apparently, this wasn't even a proper home to begin with. Some fellow just wandered into the woods, built it halfway, and then gave up after the roof collapsed due to his poor carpentry. Still, the townsfolk were glad enough to tell their stories, and those stories did a good job at keeping the place nice and tidy for folks like him who know better. By this point, he was getting fed up with speaking at me and asked me directly what brought me to this rundown shack. I jumped right to a lie, explaining that I was a bandit searching for someone to rob. He didn't believe me. I tried staying silent, hoping that he would just accept it and move on, but he just waited for the real answer. I tried to make it short, enough of the truth just to satisfy him, but as I told him, I just kept talking. Even as my voice got shaky, it just kept flooding out until I began to cry. He moved closer, ready to put a comforting hand on my shoulder, but he put it down, unsure of how I would react. He seemed a bit surprised by the sudden emotional outburst. Later, he did admit that he had assumed I was out looking for berries or fishing. After collecting myself, we changed the subject to Goloins. I told him about the mountain and about home. He said it sounded quite nice, despite the hardship. When the topic shifted to journals, he pulled out one of his own, out of his pack, and let me take a look through it. I was a bit surprised by how similarly we write. His handwriting was far more elegant, but his entries were short. Usually notes about the weather and the paths he intends to take, and how Queen Mildred was feeling, usually sleepy. He wouldn't section off his entries for space, however. On nearly every page, he would draw a picture of the area around him, breathtaking sketches of trees, rivers, and sunrises, which are normal, as I've discovered. They were not perfect, however. Occasionally, the landscape would include wildlife, and when it came to living things, something was off. They were all lopsided, weird noses, too big or too small, just a real wreck. Hey, that's mean. Drawing is hard. I couldn't help but laugh when he showed me a sketch of Queen Mildred, so stubby and tall that it looked like she couldn't stand on 2 feet. Early on, they weren't so short, so there wasn't enough room for drawing. Descriptions of daily life in a town with his family, harshly critical opinions of bothersome people, frequent notes not to pay for the sheaves late. An entry opened with his partner falling ill, and I closed the book. He noticed and told me it's all right, and I wasn't intruding by reading it. That wasn't entirely where my worries lie, but I broke down the last time I explained, so I didn't correct him. I asked him how he drew so well, and all he had to say was practice. He found drawing to be therapeutic. He felt similarly about his writing, but he lost the motivation when he took to the life of travel. Still, he felt they was very similar. Writing, doodling, it's all in the mind. His stomach growled, and I remembered I had essentially eaten all of his food. I skittered back up to my hiding spot and brought down what I had. I told him it wasn't much, but he could have whatever he thought he needed. Quietly, I hoped he wouldn't take the moss. He dug through it, clearly not impressed, until he got to the special mix. He popped it open, took a whiff, and inspiration appeared in his eyes. He jumped up from his spot, raced over to Queen Mildred, and dug through a sack sat next to her. As quick as he left, he returned, grabbing a handful of damp grain and the last remaining egg. Working quickly, he ground the grains into flour, added 2 white substances I could not identify in the egg. He mixed them together, and the mixture starting to resemble something you'd see while baking. He poured the mixture into the pan. When I asked what he was doing, all he would say was not to worry until it was done. Till then, he wanted me to have a seat with my journal and write down my woes. Tell your pal BB about what happened, while the earth comforts your body. Let the journal be the same for your soul. So, here I sit, writing while he cooks. It was probably best I just get to it. So, I guess it starts with me and Ratat. Ratat is another cook from my village. Cooking as a profession is generally reserved for younger Goloins who aren't quite ready for more intensive labor. Not for Ratat, though. He did it because he enjoyed it. Since we're the only Goloins our age still cooking, we became fast friends, and I became his sidekick. We would spend our off time mixing random surplus ingredients to make something tasty. It didn't usually work. One day, we made the special mix, a drink that ferments quickly and uses ingredients that are plentiful. It could change the way we partied if we did it right, but it was never meant to be. After that, me and Ratat got into a fight. I said some nasty things. Granted, so did he, but what he said was true. I lunged at him, and he knocked me flat, and I swore away our friendship. A few days later, my mother got sick. It was nothing out of the ordinary, we thought, but she got worse fast. Before I knew it, she was gone. My mother and the single most competent hunter our village had ever known, taken out by a cold. With her death, our survival was in question. We had food, yes, but with our greatest source gone, how long did we have? So, with my mother gone, my only friend abandoned, my village on the brink, I left. I took whatever food I could carry and headed for the outside world. Things went badly, as I've told you. The meal was ready. It's some kind of flatbread, I think. He's poured the special mix onto it and passed it to me for the first taste. He calls it a panned cake.
Uh-oh. You know that one?
Yeah, I was wondering if that's what he was going to make. It's pretty good.
Oh, you'll have to try to make it. Hey, maybe we'll use the recipe at the end.
I have some questions about the route of the special mix, but I can make pancakes for you, absolutely.
Well, let's keep going.
It is quite good. It's like a sweet bread, but very fluffy and moist. The special mix seems to have loosened up when applied to the heat, causing it to soak into the bread like milk. I couldn't focus on chewing, instead finding my mouth agape as I realized this special mix actually tastes good. Excellent, even. This is what we were looking for. The Boomin recognized that if he didn't stop me, he wouldn't see his breakfast ever again, so he took back the panned cake. I demanded the recipe. He began writing something down. As he did, he asked me how long I'd been away from home. I told him just last afternoon. After further silence, he told me about his home. He had lived a life of toil and misery, with no respect or recognition to speak of. The war swept through the town between two petty nobles he'd never heard of. When it was all said and done, he was all that remained of his family. So he packed up and decided to go somewhere else. Since muscling in somewhere you don't belong and declaring ownership of it seemed to work well enough for the nobles, that seemed like the way to go. So he went deep into the woods, taking no heed of who supposedly owned them, and tried to make it a home. Of course, he was not counting on nature to push back on him. As it tore his hard work to the ground, he was angry, and he felt foolish. But he soon realized that nobody, not the nobles on their horses, nor the gods in the clouds, could beat the land out of itself. It was only a matter of time before the land took itself back. It was just a matter of time. He decided that if there was no home for him upon the land, then he would have to make one beside it. And there, to this day, he has stayed. Moving, but nonetheless home. He ripped the page he was writing free and held it. He told me I could have the recipe, but to think again about the directions to town. It wasn't too late yet. We still only sat at the base of the mountain, and there was near infinite lands beyond. The further I move away, the faster my home will dwindle. Finding a new home is possible, but it's a journey, and a lonely one at that. Turning around may seem scary, and asking forgiveness may be hard, but the first step isn't always the hardest. Sometimes it's pretty consistent. It's good to have friends to help you walk it. I told him to hold on to the recipe for the moment. I wanted to go on a walk and think about it. This was only partly true, because I didn't need much thinking. It had only been a day, and I was so homesick that a cooked egg could bring me to tears. Even if I'm not forgiven, even if I return to an empty camp, I have to try and make amends. If I can help keep my loved ones up a little longer, or just provide a bit of hope or comfort, I need to have the courage to do so. I can't let myself run away. I'll find Ratat and I'll give him the recipe. I don't know if I'll be forgiven for my cruelty, but it doesn't matter. I just wish that he would know that his recipe could amount to something after all. I want it to give him hope. As for the rest of them, that is where I'm going now. All the moss I can carry should satisfy them. I suppose I'll see you there, BB. The journal is the hearth of the soul, after all.
Well, supposing we found this within the archives of Goloin books, I guess we know what they decided.
I'm glad they returned back. I hope Ratat forgave him after all of that. That is, I must say, he is an astounding storyteller. I got the impression that he was washed away by a flood and ended up miles and miles directionless from home, and he was only a day away.
Well, sometimes those distances feel like a lot when you're in an unfamiliar state in your life, so I get it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Sometimes even journeying across the cave feels like an adventure.
I mean,
I'm sure, as you know.
yeah. Well, it's I hear lots of whisper about Ahu itself reshaping itself to explore, and I must say there is maybe one thing that I do find comforting about the land outside the mountain is that it's not so willing to change under under such short notice.
I wouldn't be so sure about that, actually.
Oh?
I mean, think about it. The mountain is a large thing, but it's not like a structure that's built, right? The caves go on for long stretches. I'm sure, like, we don't know how it moves, but I mean, there have been a couple of scouting reports that imply that sometimes things have moved in ways that we couldn't quite understand. I don't know how it works, but maybe it was possible that this one got washed away and then managed to maybe even be brought back before they even realized they wanted to go home. The distance back just turned out to be quicker than expected.
Who did not want them to leave just yet, I suppose.
Maybe so. Oh, and here, look, the recipe at the end.
Yes, that, having a scan through, that does stand true to, I must admit, I'm not much of a cook, but it sounds delicious. Maybe it would be, I don't know, a home away from home nostalgic to go and eat a pancake.
Well, you know, maybe we'll combine the total. We'll get some sucker berries and try it ourselves.
Yeah, about the special mix. I know that I said...
Come on!
Okay. So I said earlier about how we're generally predisposed to be able to eat most things, but eating rocks obviously is fine for all of us, but when it's dirt and soil, there's a lot of organic matter in there that can make us really ill. I can see if we took a rock and grounded it into dirt, that would be okay because it wouldn't have any other bits and pieces in it, but you can't just take a scoop from the ground. That feels so dangerous.
Well, it looks like the dirt didn't make it into the final recipe, so I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, thank goodness.
All right. Well, then. All right, so let's keep going. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. This one's got some... Oh, this is a story, but these are Goloin pages, but I don't think this is a Goloin's entry. I'm noticing a language I don't recognize on here.
Oh, really?
Huh. Yeah. Maybe we should take a read and see what this is about.
I wonder what other communities could have lived here to go and write their own life books.
Well, let's see. Could also just be an account that got mixed up from different Lich accounts related to the mountain, but let's figure out. So, don't know what this opening word says, but let's just go into it. I'm not one for journals, per se. Perhaps it is simply because I have always had a good memory. Maybe, to some degree, it comes down to me being less interested in observing the past, but... I stare at the rest of the blank page in front of me. Lines of stone script primed to fill the page, but arrested perfectly after only a handful of bars, with no musicality to them. I was hardly ever one to be found waxing metric in even my most devoted communications. I stare at my writing, then at the text around me. Books and scrolls and tablets and scratching and offcuts of a leather. A society with literacy so built into its very bones, and a unique one. No, wait. A society with literacy so built into its bones is of a unique one. Not even my own people could claim to have literacy as one of its natural tenets, as erudite as many of us are. I turn back to my own page. The spiraling glowing glyphs almost burnt into my vision. Words escape me. Not just words, but my focus as well. My interests remain my interests, my instincts remain my instincts, and my skill remains my skills. However, everything else has begun to fade? Not quite. I can only describe the feeling as an abiding numbness, and even that was only an approximation. This has been a growing problem ever since the advent of my current condition. My focus drifts, my memories, once written in stone, now grow hazy at the edges. I had no interest in thinking about things tucked away forever in the annals of life. I did not care where my shadow stood or where my footprints trailed unless I knew I was being watched. Thus, I did not obsess over my own life's trail, not knowing how necessary such obsessions would become. This is an unfortunate attitude to have ingrained so deeply in myself. Now I am trying to write a journal that is meant to be a summation of my life. I instead turn back to the trove around me. Would they have an answer to my problem? No. They may present enough fuel for me to craft my own. As I flick through the pages of the strength of my memory waxes, titles that has become, I am reminded of a recent discussion between Arcat and Gartriness. Hey, wait a minute. Wait.
So, how did Melinius's paperwork get shuffled in here?
Oh, wait, this is hers?
It must be, I suppose.
Yayo, did you mess something up?
Hey, this is your organizational of texts.
Well, Yayo gave me books and they didn't mark them, and I organized them afterwards. She just dropped them off, so I'm putting the blame on her.
All right.
And I suppose I've already read, so I have no choice but to keep reading.
Let's not worry about the blame. Let's just go and put this back and keep reading.
Hold on. We don't know if it's hers. I haven't seen her name yet, so let's just keep going.
Oh, you want to confirm it, huh? Okay, all right. Continue.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, well, I heard what she said. She snuck your journal too, didn't she?
Well, I didn't really have much of a journal for her to read, but yes, she did read everyone's, I remember.
Well, it sounds like she needs a bit of payback, doesn't it?
You know what? Fine. Go ahead. Let's see what else she's written.
Okay, hang on. I am reminded of a recent discussion between Arcot and Gartriness. I was not necessarily the intended audience for the narrative, but what was it my grandmother always said? Elun have big ears for a reason. She was a terrible gossip. Something in me brightens with the relief that I was able to remember that. Something else within me tells me that doesn't matter. Something deeper still deadens it all and sets me back on task. It stays with me, a common Goloin saying, and it means what it says. Something happened, and will not soon be forgotten. That is how some things are. They stay with you whether you want them to or not. I have had many such experiences in my long days across this world. I will have many, many more. Many, many more. Or maybe not. I look at my hand, skeletal and frail, and I can only wonder if this body is much less permanent than I had once thought it to be. Oam goam, Meli. I cannot express the unease that settled across me as a memory surged to the surface of my mind, unbidden. Sends a shiver through my body that cannot shiver, and turns a stomach that cannot be turned. The voice familiar, the nickname much less so, but I have to assume it is referring to me. The simplest solutions are often the easiest to believe. I take my almost blank journal in hand, flip to the last page, and rip it from the bindings. Using the cover as my desktop, I bear down it and begin to write. The same phrase once again and again and again, as if it were an incantation that would draw me backwards into my memories. And somehow, it does. Just thinking about my memories was able to conjure some of them to mind. My head swims with thoughts and memories beyond the veil of my recent history, and I find myself left with a choice. Who could have known me well enough to call me Melly? A friend? A comrade? Family member? By my best reckoning, that was order from the most to least likely. I did not remember nor think about my family, and I never did even before my accident. The best place to begin, then, I must assume, is at the start of my list. What were my friends like? Melly sounds childish, or at least immature. Childhood friends, the distant past of my life, a place that would need to be traversed like a pitchback cellar, by ramming headlong into the boundaries and building an understanding by touch alone. I don't think I had many friends. I had as many as were proper for the average Elun child of my age as my life went on. I have no particularly strong memories of childhood playmates or integral adolescent mishaps, no dramatics or grand fights which are tearfully resolved. I am slowly realizing that my conception of a youth well lived is actually based entirely on novels and plays. How sad. No, I do not think that it was a friend who called me Melly. Maybe a companion on my many adventures? I have been allied with many groups of adventurers and soldiers of fortune. I had been both myself and some things much less heroic. Centuries in exile would render anyone a utilitarian, and I was not particularly staunch in my principles even before my exile. This, possibly, is what got me exiled. The party in Essos, adventurers and their sea above and below, rise in my memories first. Faces forming out of the haze, none of them would have been the ones to call me such a familiar nickname. Consummate professionals as they were. Maybe it was the mercenary company and the principalities of Aegon. Did I have any happy memories and close friendships amongst a band of glory hounds and scavengers? Likely not. But one of them had taught me, as I began to remember, some intriguing tools of the trade that could be built under the corpses of beasts and remains of weapons and armor. Useful for the Goloin expeditions, but hardly the kind of person who would call me by such a name. It should unsettle me that I have no deep, positive relationships in my many centuries of life. None that immediately hurl themselves out in my memory, at least. Oh, I try to remind myself that whatever the state of my current condition is, my emotions are under the reins of something else. It is a cold comfort, the only kind this existence can afford me. That left one dreadful option. This half-recalled fragment of a life is from a family member. Feels like the sting of a wound still bearing the blade to know that whoever said this to me is likely still around, likely still at home, likely still glad for my exile. Unlike the memories of friends and compatriots who offered me some smattering of unasked-for recollections, this particular pathway is much harder to explore. Whether a subconscious block, a facet of my current condition, or something else still, I am treading in through my mind like a bog water to recall my time with such people. Melly, just like bog water. Slipping is the worst part. Mentally, I am flailing for any handhold I can find until a peaceful gray settles over me again. Then forces a sort of detached logic upon me and makes me think about my situation as if it were a story told to me by an acquaintance, not the present condition of my own existence. I had asked him about language. My father, the kind of man that he was, could field as many questions as I could conjure. He was curious himself, patient. His parents had not been so. Long-lived but short-tempered, he had set himself about the task of answering all the questions they refused to answer, and thus answered any and all of mine in turn. It is deeply unsettling to me that the block on my memories had lifted like this, that once the shroud of numbness had settled across my memories returned. It paints a worrying picture. My mind would not give me access to itself if I threatened to feel too deeply about anything. It is not lost in me, however, that dread seems capable of slipping past the numbness unnoticed. My father had thought long and hard about the concept of languages. He was a traveling man himself in his youth, however long ago that was, and encountered the most curious concept. He spoke the language of stone forests, written stone script, adapted from the practices of writing on standing stones and tree trunks. When he encountered humans and others out in the world, they had called the language Aloon. His attempts to explain that not every Aloon spoke the same language, or even the same dialect of stone forest, had served to only confuse them further. When I brought up the concept of language then, he was prepared for almost any question. Luckily for him, my ability to come up with mystifying questions was finely honed even as a child. How do we know what words mean? It seems strange to me. When I hear sounds, I know there are words, I know these sounds mean things. How? My father paused for longer than any other question I had asked. I remember it so distinctly because even as he thought, he kept working, polishing his bow, working oil into the fibers of the tool that was his livelihood. It was automatic to him. Then he finally paused in his work. He lifted both hands and a finger raised in each. Context, he said, and memory. He brought the two hands together. It was a simple explanation, but more than good enough for a child. We know what words mean because when we see people use them, we see them referring to something. Words are only rendered meaningless out of context, or when the context is obscured by other words we do not know. A simple theory of language, but a much more complex theory of memory. I inquired after that theory next, how it worked, how things remained in our minds even when we didn't want them to. He asked me how my blood flows. I said the body did it for me. He asked me how the food I ate filled me. I said my body did that for me too. He said the memory was the same, an unconscious process of collection and, more importantly, interpretation. Memory is not truth. It's as close as most people get, but a memory is only ever how you think things were. Memories are unreliable. They can be lost, fuzzy, edited, and even mixed with dreams. As he talked, he looked at me more and more. I can feel his eyes on me. Not the child that sat on the table, but on me observing this moment, so many years hence. There's a saying, he had said, though you can only hear the older folks say it now. Oangoham Meli, from time to time. What do you think it means? I didn't have an answer. I didn't even have a guess. I never heard it before. I had no context. I told him as much. He laughed, and he looked at me like that's exactly what he wanted to hear. His own lessons looped together to inform each other. It's an answer. The old folks use it when someone asks them if they're remembering something. Goam, they say. Memories stick around when you get as old as we do. Not all of them, not all the time, but the important ones keep cropping back up. Whether you want them to or not, like old scars, old aches. It stays with me. Will pass. I take my pen in my hand and continue to write. My life has been a series of scars from which time to time remind me of where I have been. Not all are noble, not all are important. Some are regrettable, forgettable, faded, but all of them have left some mark. I watch my decaying hand as it writes, and carved another scar into my life.
Oh.
I'm sorry I did that. That feels a bit... That's on me. I would probably go apologize to her and bring this to her at some point.
I think it's okay.
Hmm?
This is obviously a private matter of hers, but we're not reading this from a perspective of jeering at her or undermining her experience. Maybe, if we're honest about it, she'll open up to us about her past more. There are links between her experience and ours. Who am I kidding? She's not going to open up to us at all.
It had been some time since I had managed to find Garchinus and the others. Arcot was looking for them. I had stumbled upon this spot, and to my great surprise, I had seen them recounting stories. I had been sitting here for some time when I recognized the very first words of my story, with my face scrunched up. It was like daggers stabbing into me. But most embarrassing of all was that last line. Perhaps she would have that feeling of wanting to share. Though I very well might have, and very well did. That idea from this very moment felt the absolute opposite of what I wanted to do. So I very quickly stood up, quit my own spying, and very swiftly deposited. I would have Arcot say that I had found them briefly, I would never mention this again, and I would very swiftly walk off to practice archery once more and never again bring up this eavesdropping. It wasn't a lie if I just didn't bring it up. Well, if you're feeling kind of bad about it, why not, I don't know,
Well, actually, yes. There were two things I wanted to talk about off the back of that.
Yeah.
It is an interesting kind of mirroring or a connection to the story we read previously, where that Goloin had to remove and destroy pages from his life book to keep himself warm and alive.
Yeah.
And as you read that, I was thinking about what it means to kind of sacrifice a memory in that way. At the time, the Goloin was still alive, so they could still remember the things that was missing, but it's now missing from our record. But in a way, maybe we wouldn't have the book at all if those memories weren't destroyed. That, an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
And, well, the other thing, I again paused and looked a little nervous. Maybe I should be heartened by this, as we've read some of these books. But I'm surprised at how many of them struggle with the idea of writing their own lives down. I must admit, before I arrived here at the mountain, I assumed that the process of writing one's book was something that came naturally, flowed from the pen like water. It was intuitive to know what ideas to write down and what wouldn't be. That a book was only as long as it needed to be. I think I might have felt similarly about the end. I might have felt similarly about reaching the end of a life book if I was in the habit of writing one.
Well, Hey, that's a fair point. I mean, after all, writing a life book is so intensely personal, it can be, I guess, embarrassing to stare at yourself. I mean, sometimes you'll write something down on the page, look at it, and go, "Oh my gosh, no, I don't think that at all."
Yes.
Actually, that happens all the time with me. I throw out so many scrolls. I don't throw out. I usually turn them into like notes because paper's valuable, but I'll scribble in the margin important things of old epics I don't really want to feel like writing. But hey, I think I caught you doing some little bit of writing on the side in a different book besides the ones Arlamander gave you. A little notebook.
Yes.
Maybe have you been trying? Well, if you tried any kind of writing so far, even if you didn't like them and throw them out, maybe it's fair if you posit one up for us.
No, that's reasonable. I do actually have a book that I wanted to try and turn into my own life book, a life journal, and it never really coalesced in the way that I would like. And following the conversation we had in the Lich's library, I think if I want to go and try and commit to telling a story, it should be in a different medium. But I do have something I wrote previously, and if it will behoove you, if it will behoove the spirits that are here watching us today for me to go and talk about my personal life or my personal processes to what? Establish a balance of karma? I pouted. You're the one who read that, by the way.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll find something and let you read it too.
It's fine. It's fine. I ruffled around in my bag and pulled out a much smaller book than the tome that Zarlamander had given me. I'll read something from mine then,
Sure
shall
thing.
I?
I'll be rapt at attention, and I won't make any comments. Till the end.
Okay. I never really know how to start one of these. In my spare time researching and being with my fellow Goloins, I became acquainted with the idea of life journals. I never had one growing up. My parents never taught me how to write one. And as I see more and more of Goloin civilization here in the mountain, I can't help but feel I'm missing out on something vital. I tried to make my own life journal. More than once, actually. But every time I tried, I just felt stuck. Was it because I'm new to it all? Not as connected to my heritage as I want to be? Or did I just not have anything interesting to write? I spent so long working with my mentor, Zarlamander F. Le Creme, that
Keep going.
No, I'm sorry. I have to admit, every time the name comes up, I have to give it with the Have you ever met somebody with the grandioseness of saying their own name to even people who know their name? It's so obnoxious.
It sounds kind of cool to me, but I mean, I'm sure they are an obnoxious fella.
I suppose it's the energy which you give your own name, but it is. I am doing a particularly accurate impression.
Oh, goodness.
Indeed. I spent so long working with my mentor, Zarlamander F. Le Creme, that a lot of the things I have seen and done felt so commonplace. Reading books, organizing notes, whatever fetch quests the man had me do on a given day. I never quite expressed my views on the world beyond the standard historical lens in which I taught. Am I really that pressed for interesting topics that I lack the foresight to analyze my own life experiences? I don't know. I never really knew. That's why I'm stuck, unable to do the thing I really want to do. Especially now, with all the things I've learned from my new friends. You know what? Maybe I can start there. I still have a lot of thoughts fresh in my mind about that secret library. Maybe I can write an entry on that, and if I don't like it, I can just toss the idea aside and start all over again. No one has to know, aside from you now, Etete.
Too late for that.
So, I came to this mountain, first and foremost, to learn about Goloins, to write about their history and chronicle it in a comprehensive account. That is the objective truth of my situation. And as someone who had been fairly disconnected from their culture for their entire life, it was a topic of great interest to me. The time I spent with everyone here in Ahu has been the most satisfying, enriching, and thoughtful expedition I've ever experienced. I'm happy to call my new companions my dear friends, even if we got ourselves in rather dicey situations. And with all the new information in the Lich's secret library, all the journals he was keeping, all the information he was hiding from us, I said as much to Strege at that moment, but I never felt more connected to my heritage than I did trying to piece together our history from those old life journals. Is it weird to say I related to those ancestors? Like, I understood their struggles on a deeper level. I don't know if I should be making that call, but in a strange way, I felt myself more like the people who lived here in Ahu than I ever did reading Strege's letters or my own personal research on the subject. I guess this is why there's a difference between first-hand experience and looking through second-hand accounts. This was everything I always wanted out of my visit. Everything I wanted for my own personal records. And at this point, I got so much more that... Honestly, I'm not even sure how I'm going to write all of this down. All of these raw, unfiltered emotions and sensations hold too much complexity or nuance to summarize in a historical text, let alone a single page. Maybe that's why I find writing these life journals so hard. It's that raw emotion that I struggle with. There are too many things to jot down and not enough space to cover it all. And yet, everyone else is able to understand this dilemma. That's why we have these journals in the first place. A place to jot down your thoughts and experiences through your own personal writings. And yet, the Lich found it fit to strip the Goloins of their language. I think that was the thing that really bugged me in all of this. He forbade words. The name of the mountain was treated as a curse. Their own name by birthright was altered into something else, something almost demeaning. And the village never knew. Only the teachings of their elders who were oppressed into compliance. All because the Lich was the more powerful man, and we were the lesser. Ugh, it makes me sick knowing that nothing has changed, even with the Lich gone. I don't think I can stand for it anymore. These Goloins, sorry, the Heldin. They don't deserve to be treated like this. They are a good people. I've seen their struggles with my own eyes, and even the short amount of time. They do not deserve to be belittled like some lowly dog. They deserve to be respected. They deserve to have their voice back, their name back, their home back. And I don't think I can stay silent on that for much longer. And what are the rest of the Lich's minions to do with us now that we know the shocking truth? Force us to forego the knowledge we learned and to return to our lives of servitude? If they wish to harm us, they can try and pry the truth from my cold, dead hands. I hold in my mind and heart the forbidden history of Heldin, a race who travelled far beyond their prior station. Their stories will forever be recorded not only in my accounts, but in the accounts of my friends. Strege, Arcat, Yayo, Etete, and yes, even Melinius as well.
Oh, I saw that. Hey, that was before she said the thing, wasn't it?
I deign to comment.
Okay.
Our words will reach not only this generation of Ahukit, but in the next generation, and the one after that, and the one after that. For my existence proves this knowledge is real. And when I write it down here on this paper, the thought will live, long after I am dead and buried in the ground. Oh, jeez. I may have gotten a little carried away there. I'm not even sure where I was going with this. Looking this over, this still feels like a mess. I still don't know if I'm doing this right. I think I'm going to scrap this after all. This isn't feeling like a proper life journal. I'll find something that works for me, surely. And it's not like I'll never write about this again. Once I find my groove, I can write about the Helden again, and the ancestors, and the Ahokit. I'll be able to put their words to paper and share my story along with it. But for now, with this, I'll just toss it aside and leave these pages be for now. No one has to know.
No one has to know, but you
Stop
also shared it
giggling.
anyways. Okay, I'll stop. Okay. Genuinely, thank you for sharing. I think... well, I guess I'd just ask, you... Garcinis,
Yeah,
do you want to know one of the reasons I like writing poems and stories?
sure, go for it.
Well, I guess I always found that... I think, honestly, we write a little similar. Or at least, that reminded me a lot of the journals I used to write. I always wrote for someone who wasn't there. A lot of the journals do that. People write, like BB, like, sometimes, though, when you're writing for someone else, it feels like the moment you start, I guess, trying to justify to someone else, it gets a lot harder to put something down to the page. So I started writing a poem because I guess when I was writing stories, it always felt like that person started to disappear slightly. I disappeared into the narrative. Etete, the hero in an epic, was always a little different from me, so I was able to justify her actions a little bit more. I don't know how it's going to work for you, but I guess I'm happy you read it because it makes me understand a little bit more why you might have trouble writing your own journals.
I do enjoy the art of language and writing down histories. The idea of anthropology is fascinating to me, but maybe I thought that trying to enshrine myself in the history of the Helden was arrogant, self-serving. And more than that, I think if I was to really try and make, like Tharic, a magnum opus that upon completion would bring me the Gwalik to truly move on, I don't think it would be in the written word. Textiles are the thing that I adore more than anything else. Not just clothes, but the idea of weaving, the idea of knowing what a culture is like through what they wore and how they made it. And I don't know. Maybe I will finally make a shroud or a tapestry that is truly Garcinis Kana in every warp and weft, and that will tell my story in a way more effective than any words I can put to paper.
Maybe so. I can't wait to see it.
You'll have a hard time reading it and giggling about it, though.
Oh, we'll see. You shouldn't underestimate me.
We'll see about that.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I suppose I am also teasing you just a little. Right. On that note, I think I could do with going and stretching my arms and legs, and maybe getting a bit of fresh cave air. So I'm going to step out for a second.
Sure thing. As Garcinis stood up and moved on out, I collected these mini stories together, the ones we had just read. I sorted them into different piles once more, and I looked at the large pile of work. In much the same way, the way a cook might toil to feed the whole village, someone might balk at a bit of laundry left out and around. I could look at this and say that perhaps we had barely gotten through anything, and that I would still take a long, long time. And perhaps I would find to dread that. But that would be a lie, for truly this was like a treasure trove for me, and all these books were as gold. But the reality is, no matter how much you love something, doing it for over and over again non-stop for at least a good couple of days it could be rough. I enjoyed the quick little reprieve I had for someone to read to, but just sitting here, I've already drowned so much of the tea Garcinis brought. I'm already out, and I look dangerously around my corner beyond, looking at the small little doses I have left of liquor, but I stop. I I go back, trying to piece over the best I can over another book. This had been the way of things until I was blessed with yet another interruption that brought my face a bit of light.
Golo.
Oh, Golo. Archide, what do I owe the pleasure?
Yeah, I'm slightly confused. Garchon has said that you needed help around here?
You've been voluntold? Hang on, come here.
Wait.
Here.
What?
Hey, Archide.
Voluntold?
I swiftly grabbed them, and I would not say forced them. She is far stronger than me, but I did sort of confusingly drag her into a chair as I moved around, patting her shoulder. Well, I mean, you remember back in, when you were young, when they would have you read life journals, things so you'd learn how to talk good?
Yeah, I remember Yayo speaking about doing stuff like that.
well, I mean, if you want to give it a shot, I need some help categorizing stuff, and reading gets boring. So, Archite, I need your help. I need your help a lot.
Okay. I can read a couple of life journals for you.
Okay, well...
But you're gonna have to help me with some stuff later.
Like what?
Well, I got cooking duty later today, so...
Okay, fine. Yeah, you know what? That's a trade. I could, honestly, I could use any excuse to get out of this shack for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. When cooking duty's like in a couple hours, so what we'll do, we'll read through, and then once we give a good stopping point, we'll go up.
All right. What's the first one?
Okay, I'll start us off just to get you the lured in. It seems like this life journal belongs to a weaver from town. Let's take a look here. I got some different pages. They showed off a bit of a process that they did. And I think we got a guest appearance from someone we know. So, I met a merchant who was doing something called crocheting. It's where you use a small stick with a hook on the end to weave yarn together. The fabric it makes is pretty thick, and I like the way it feels. The merchant got really excited when she noticed that I was interested in her work. She offered to teach me how to crochet, even gave me a huge discount on the materials I would need. It looks a little difficult, but most things are. It's probably fine. Crochet sucks. I can't make a slip knot, my stitch count keeps dropping for no reason, and my hands hurt. Miss Merchant says I'm making progress though, so I guess there's that. This'll pass, probably. Look and be amazed by my first creation. It's not exactly what I was trying to make, and Sariti says it looks like a dungeon monster that was trying to eat him in his sleep, but I think it looks perfect. Hopefully my next project comes out a little nicer. They have little pictures in here.
Oh, look at that. That's... Oh, man, I think I've seen that around the village.
I hope you're not excusing it for Yayo. Oh, speaking of that, I think I'm getting pretty good at crochet. My scarves don't turn into triangles anymore, and my plushies are recognizable. I can even read the Boomin's crazy patterns now. I've made a few dolls for my siblings, and I'm thinking of making a cover for my journal. Sariti might actually get something nice out of a Humilic hobby if he asks nicely. I think I may have crocheted my best doll yet. I was planning on trading it for more yarn, but I just try to keep it to myself, and it's one of a kind. Because I freehanded it, I know exactly how I made it.
Oh, this one looks really familiar.
This one, I think, could be mistaken for Yayo pretty easily. Look at the hat.
Yeah.
Starting to wonder which merchant sold her this. I might make my hand at making my own patterns soon. I'm already almost done with a book cover, but it's simple enough I should be able to remember what I did. Oh, and here's the little... Here seems to be the recipe for the life book itself, how they made it.
Oh, that's a really nice pattern.
I like it a lot. You can see it on the book itself. I mean, hold it. It's so soft.
Oh my gosh. I need to do this for my book if I can ever learn how to crochet.
I like your book. The charms are cute.
Thanks.
It's not the cleanest, and it still needs more testing, but I think it's okay for my first time. And now I have a nice and soft book cover to protect my life book. Sariti asked me if crocheting brings me Gwalik. Apparently, I got really focused when I'm working on it, and I get really passionate when I talk about it. I've had plenty of hobbies in the past, but this is the one I've stuck with the longest. Thinking about it, I don't think it's Gwalik. The only things I remember about most projects are when I'm excited to start one, proud to end one, and annoyed when problems occur. Between all that, it's just a lot of time to think. My body remembers the movements for me, and I can just let my mind wander. I like it, though. It's pretty wall. Note to self, get a third box for your yarn, and also more yarn.
I think
Ah,
any hobby that brings Gwal will probably lead to Gwalik in the end anyway.
potentially. It can be interesting, I suppose, to see. I don't know if I would almost agree. Perhaps a hobby that is always enjoyable might be only Gwal, but sometimes it being a pain in the butt is part of the process.
There's no hobby that's gonna be completely carefree.
Do you ever get fed up with archery?
There's a lot of things in archery that is annoying, like fletching the arrows. Mostly because I like shooting them. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think everything in its entirety, that's Gwalik. The bad and the good.
I'd say so too. Feel bad that Cartoonist missed this one. I bet he would have loved to learn about some weaving patterns. But I'll have to show him later. Anyways, you get the gist of it now? You kind of understand what we're doing?
Yeah, this seems pretty okay. I think I can do one.
Yeah, then let's take a look.
That's that one right there.
Sure thing.
All right. I think this one's by Payokeo?
Oh.
Or no, Pakeo.
Pakeo, yeah. Okay. Then, let's see. Why don't you lead us in then?
Sure thing. All right. I've mostly only done one thing throughout my life, throwing things really fast and hard. So, that is what I'll write. I'm detailing all my knowledge for you with the help of my dear friend, Katayanat, to help with giving visual aid.
Oh,
Oh, it looks like Katayanat is the artist behind this one.
yeah, you can see the little doll. That was such a good drawing on there. You can see them.
Yeah. Throwing things at first might seem stupid. I definitely thought so when I was younger. Why would you choose a rock? Well, rocks are cheaper. Yeah, rocks are free versus arrows that cost hoo-hoo.
Yeah, I bet that's I mean, you could fletch them, but as you said, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, it's much easier to just pay someone to do all the work.
Have you ever tried rock throwing?
A couple times. I think the first time I saw the Bassamander, I threw some rocks.
Oh, I guess this will be something you're a little familiar with. And keep going.
Alright. When you're cornered, a small solid object flung at high speeds can make the creature chasing you stunned for a moment. It could give an important opportunity for survival. Throwing is the foundation to slinging. The sling is a tool that extends your arm. When I was younger, the most important lesson my parents would say to me.
Oh, there's another one, a little diagram of the tossing.
Oh, that's really good form. I drill this every day. My parents worked hard to teach me, despite my insistence to escape and hang out with Katayanat. In hindsight, I feel that they felt a duty to pass down slinging. Our family was the last ones to practice it in the village. They told me it was used back before we lived in Ahukit to scare off predators. In time, the bow was used more often. It was just more effective for hunting and self-defense. Though, despite this, I believe there's a place for the sling. There's now a different predator that's come to terrorize our land. The boomies. Their metal armor is good at deflecting arrows, but high-speed rocks send all that force without being redirected. Makes them think about why they came here. I wanted to test this out. So, one day I decided to start helping a group of hunters, helping them out against boomies. Shooting a piece of marked wall was one thing, but I wanted to acquire actual experience. Throughout my journey, I mostly used the techniques shown here. We have the true overhand, the Kaio family special, the simple sidearm shot,
and one and someone who's stinky.
and I think I'm a big fan of the sidearm shot.
These all look pretty interesting. I've never really seen someone do it nowadays with the way the bows have changed, I think. I guess also we've been sort of shifted away over time from fighting Huma into fighting other things for the Lich, and now whatever we're in right now.
Yeah. Maybe I gotta show some people in the village rock throwing again.
Well, maybe I'll transcribe some of these techniques for you. You can give it a shot.
I think I might stick with my bow, though.
Well, that's fair.
I had to train for hours on end to achieve better accuracy. Moving targets felt like a whole different monster. You'll miss the mark many times. You'll feel that frustration, but you'll have to trust the process. What helped me is to imagine each rock as a small part of Ahu kit, putting that trust in Ahu and yourself on your aim to strike true. Ahu is like a gentle hand that guides. It helps to reduce worry, to get the necessary repetitions in. Though, despite working hard, seeing my fellow hunters hit such consistent arrow shots made me feel like a burden. I was filled with envy. I wished that I had their skill and talent. I missed a lot of my shots, and because of that, I felt that I needed to be better. One time they even let me use the bow. I tried it out for myself. Embarrassingly enough, I ended that training session jealous and frustrated. I stored those feelings inside as I tried to focus. Out in the jungle, you need to keep your wits about you, though eventually I was able to calm down. Over time, I started digesting the thoughts in my head properly. I ended up sticking with the sling instead of training further with the bow. It felt more natural for me to wield. Despite being full of doubts in my mind, I still kept up my drills. There was a meditative aspect to it. Using my whole body to throw just leaves little room for worry. Eventually, me and the hunters had a talk. It was a night that felt peaceful. The cool breeze and the sounds of a slow and steady stream of water put my mind at ease, washing away whatever thoughts lingered. After such an intensive day of hunting, the others looked like they felt the same. Maybe this is why it felt right to open up about our feelings that time. I was surprised as I heard them suddenly tell me how jealous they were of my skill. KO, why are you so good at hitting the target? You've just got a piece of rope and some rocks, yet you're out shooting most of us. I hadn't thought of how others perceived me, what they thought of my abilities. I was so focused on improving so I wouldn't be a burden for others, I didn't even bother to ask if I was a burden in the first place. So I replied, well, I'm actually jealous of how you all shoot the bow. All of you make it look easy. When I try to use the bow, it's really difficult. In my pursuit of needing to be better, I haven't taken the time to appreciate their efforts as well. The hard work that they do to get those consistent shots. I then said, let's practice together. Show me how you shoot and I'll show you how I sling. That night was fun. It helped invigorate my desire to improve, but a new source has manifested from it. I felt the desire to improve because I wanted to, not because I had to. Overall, the time with the hunters really invigorated my love for this old way of fighting that my parents taught me. This is why I decided to leave this piece of my life book here in the village, for others who might want to follow this path. My parents' life book tragically got lost. I'm hoping mine can preserve this knowledge they passed down. As a bookend to this, if I were to say one phrase to whoever reads this book, be kind to yourself and others. Each stone you throw contains a piece of your being, the experiences you've had and the training you've undergone. No matter what stage you are in this skill, each throw can only be made by you. It's normal to desire improvement for yourself, to be critical about what you need to work on, in regards to every stone that flings off your sling or hand. But don't let it consume you. Don't let the monster of comparison eat at your mind. Instead, feed that desire to progress. Take inspiration from others and hone your skills together. Despite the different skill sets, you will all grow in your own ways. For me, that's how I found my Gwalik.
It's very sweet. I think about it looking at this as well. Yeah. Slingers. I think I remember reading that profession fell off when the bow became more included just because of how much effort and difficulty it took to even sling. this person training from a young age is a common story for Goloin slingers. I think it's a little funny and tells a lot about the person that they were so self-critical when they were doing something that's probably harder than any other way to fight you could learn in the village.
Yeah, it's honestly surprising. A famous stone slinger is critical of themselves. I remember looking up to this person quite a bit. It's the reason I trained so hard with the bow.
Trying to catch up, get to that level of expertise with a weapon some might consider to be easier. It makes me wonder. I know some people say the same for the guns the boomans use. How they require so much less training than the bow. Makes me wonder if somewhere out there, maybe sometime in the future, there will be a Goloin who tries to learn and take inspiration from you to try to shoot a gun as good as you can shoot a bow.
That would be surprising, but maybe I'll leave something like that in my life journal. How to shoot a bow as good as I do.
Now that would be a treasure that we would cherish for generations. Well, okay. I'll take another shift on this now. Let's see. Okay. This one should be interesting. Let me take a look at this.
Sure.
This is the life story of Kavak. It seems like, at the very least, the writings you can see since a very young age. Their first writing down here, where we should start. Golo Golo Journal, my first writing. Akava says I should write smaller, like so. Put dot when not writing. Akava says my writing is beautiful and Kovo and Oreo would be excited to see it. Every sleep put. Kova and Akava are here. Kovo says he is proud I did my first writing, but scared because I am very quiet and he did not hear me and called me little, scribbled out, Satatanarat because I cut off by stains of mushroom and herbs. This is certainly going to be a child's book and I'm going to have trouble. Bear with me. Akava says I should not write when eating at the table and write slower. Kovo says he must go after this sleep. Akava says she is sad, but they have to go. He says it is important because if they do not mine for gems, the Lich could not protect us and would have to take food or Goloin, and that Akava needs me to be happy. He was crying. Kovo is gone for longer and longer. Akava hasn't been leaving home anymore. Zati came with me to eat and told me how much Akava loves me and Kovo wants me to be here. Kovo came home again and brought me a gift. He says that they are mining ganglion calls sapphires, but this piece is not valuable enough to take. He says that everyone is working really hard to find more, but the mines are emptying and it is dangerous. That looks a hastily scrawled entry here. If the Lich keeps us safe and wants these, they must be how they protect us. I can use it to keep Akava safe and she can come eat with us every day and Kovo will be gone home for every sleep. Akava walked me to lessons and says that they will be with me every from rise to sleep. The miners came back really hurt. Zati sat with me and Drin. He's really sad. Many Kinyat are sad. Kovo is not here. Akava will not wake up. She said to go to Zati to try to. Kovo is not here. He must be very busy. 10 pages or so are covered in this number of sleep marking. Pages have been ripped out. Nothing written. There's a lot. Only a small drawing of 3 Goloins here. The waterfall is flowing greater again. Akava and Zati and Drin say to celebrate my 18th cycle, they have brought Akava's life journal so we can read it. I know why Akava and Kovo rest with the mountain. They do not have gems, so they weren't protected. The river has many gems, but Ganglia never takes them. I showed them to Raider Kalahi. They always come back, and he helped to shape them like arrows. Zati and Drin like them. I said how we were to protect them just like the one Kovo gave me. They hugged me. I think they were sad. I harvested mushrooms with Sozant. I like working with him. I spent all rise with Sozant, cleaning the village and ate them with them at the hall. His words gave me gual. His eyes shine like gems in the river. He is strong. The raiders are back. They had too much gem haul. I heard them argue about who looted the most. One pulled a fabric band out and sparked in the light, holding a gem I could not see in the caves. A little drawing of a bracelet here. They were hit on the head and told to put it away. I do not think they are meant to have kept it. I asked Kalahi. He says raiders are who the scouts aspire to be. If I want to join, I just had to ask. The more Goloin keep Huma away, the less the Lich will have to take. I can find more gems, every Goloin can be protected. Drin says it would worry Zati. I made a necklace, it matches his eyes. Scratched out. Sozan, I want to be clear. Sozan, you bring me Gwal. Sozan, I'll tell you what I wish to. When I'm with you, I feel Gwal that flows like Sozant, I love you. I will place this for you when I wake. I knew. Kalahi oversaw our induction trials. Wololo couldn't miss with the sling. He cleared the obstacle cave without hesitation. He doubled over when Kalahi struck him, likely for calling him an Oriayo. This threw spears with so much force they break the dummies in half. I think Kalahi got injured when she threw them, but did not say anything. Kalahi was surprised when I walked up to him in the evasion course and pressed the practice dagger to his back in the combat. He said I was an exemplar of scout evasion. I want Kovo to be here. Sozant came to sit with us for a meal. Drin stained his shroud with soup, laughing too much. I think Zati liked him. She had a strange expression when I answered how I knew him. Also, Drin started choking on the soup and Sozant helped him. Sona is really smart and brave and beautiful and scribbled out. Kalahi took us out on our first mission. We were only to observe and find Huma that got close. He said that lights above us are not worms and they could not be reached. The big light Huma called the moon, and that there will be a bigger one when we wake called the sun. Flowers, trees, mushroom, and a half moon are drawn here. Kalahi slapped Wololo. He warned us not to look at the sun or we will go blind. This promised to carry Wololo if they get hurt. I did not know why, but they got upset. This is kind, like a kava. We found Huma in the shiny cart. Kalahi was excited and told us to hide in the plants and wished us Krev. This threw 2 spears at the large animals that pulled the cart. It looks like they drew a horse pretty poorly here.
I don't see the shell on the horse.
The shell?
Don't they have shells? Are they like dogs?
No. Are you thinking of the saddles?
Oh, that's what they're called?
I think. Are we thinking about the same thing? Sure, yeah. Call them saddles. That's fine, yeah. Like dogs. I guess some of us could like dogs if we were kids. Maybe they're big enough. Whatever. There's someone with a sling here, though, too. Let's see. Wololo hit the Huma in front with their sling. Hitting the one inside with my dagger was much easier than practice with Kalahi. Kalahi said they were proud of us. I got to search inside and found the shiny liquid and fluffy stick the Huma was using. There were only boxes full of heavy yellow discs and papers that Kalahi said to keep. They had many gems, like this brooch here, as well as very shiny purple fabric. Zati would like it. Kalahi said if I want to have, they must be kept hidden. Kalahi and Viz carved the big animals called horse for food. Rollo stared at the Huma on the cart. Viz asked him if it was too heavy for him. Rollo did not say anything. We took everything to a raider stash, now returning to the mountain to tell Ganglion. I will hide the gems by the waterfall. If we stop the Huma, the Lich would not need to take them. Every Goloin will be safe. Kalahi said to enjoy our time left home. We were being assigned to the raiders. And next marks it seems like there's a lot of reports after skirmishes, raids, everything, and then it finally kind of recanes here with something more personal. Wololo complained about the rain. Kalahi complained about Wololo. Vis grabbed him and held him under their cloak. Wololo smiled the entire travel. We heard the sound of rumbling that did not come from the ground, responsible for finding what caused it. Vis is excited to throw their spears at it. Wololo said that believing gems protect us was ridiculous, but I knew it was true. We tracked the quakes to a small clearing. We hid among the tree line and observed. Wololo was first to spot a horse ridden by a Huma in shiny armor. Immediately they dragged the rope between trees in a path of a broken brush. They cheered when Vis pulled the rope and the Huma flew. Kalahi and I only needed to use daggers. After looting, I spotted the largest, most blue and round gem I'd ever seen buried in the dirt by the horse's head. Vis agrees that the only reason I survived the hit was the gem was in my hand. Suddenly waking, the tiny shield I took was stuck in thy shoulder. Take a drawing of that. Wololo says Kalahi screamed when I fell, while they took down the Huma that came from the bushes. Kalahi is sitting at the fire with Huma's quake sticks. They are looking at me like Akava did when I fell down the village steps. It's charcoal again. I told Zati and Drin that the pain will pass. The pain of my burnt body will pass. That the fear of my face when they brought a candle to my bedside didn't exist. When Sozant held me, I felt the absence of my lower left arm in the embrace. Pain of lying hurt more. I asked him not to tell them. You know, I'll talk about it later, but this is reminding me of something.
Yeah. This is very, familiar.
Yeah. Sozant asked if I could bear a walk through the village. He cares for the Kinyat that's lost, like I've lost. They asked me where my arm and shroud are, why I'm wrapped in fabric. Sozant asked me if I wanted to leave. I didn't. Sozant gave me parcel, handed to them by a grumpy old raider when I was carried back. Apparently, they remembered seeing him next to me when at the beginning of the trials. I am certain I told Kalali about Sozant several times. A page is pierced and tied to the binding here. Heavy-handed. Kavak. I warned Willolo about staring at the sun, and you jump at me. I would be disappointed for ignoring trading. You did say this, so I won't be. And a bit too quick for punctuation here was Kavak, will you be sleeping through every battle? I'll have to get you a barrel of gem wall for getting in the way of that fire thrower. I don't know what I'd do if this wasn't here. I did grab the gems you like. One's got no color, but when held up to a streak of charcoal, some more, and then it gets steady again. Thank you, Kavak. I will record the event for you as I do not know if you will remember. The mountain pass the conductor of the shambling, demanding for us to search, was empty. It was unsurprisingly Kavak who spotted glimmering from a cliffside. Approaching the entrance, Kalahi was blinded by a flash of light from the stone. Huma, hidden within the dark, used quake sticks to make noise. Willolo returned looted quake shot with the greater accuracy of the sling. I and Kavak moved quickly between killers and killed the Huma. Inside the cavern was a human, shining clothes and surrounded by glowing shapes. They held the same gem sticks that came with this page. That is when the light of the sun was about to strike me, but you saved me. When the human died to Willolo and the light disappeared, the mountain opposite us erupted in light and fire. We returned to the conductor, but they did not help, so you returned home. I must thank them for finding more of this. I've been ordered to return to the raiders. I will find as much Gwalik as I can before it is taken. The conductor brought every raider from the village to a large circle. Kalahi was suspicious, but we have no choice. This says glowing shapes they made around us were like the sun's humas. These ones do burn, but everyone feels strange. The walls of a large huma house are covered in what the others called boomis. They all carry quake sticks and spheres that make the light that burned me. Everyone in the camp is complaining about sickness. Willolo is struggling to stand. We will move when the sun lowers. Kalali, Willolo, Vis, rest with the stones, as will I soon. Zati, Drin, I must believe the words I leave were known to you. Sozant, I feel Gwal to know the words I left have given you. Some smudging here. More than words, I will give you truth. We have been betrayed. We did all that was asked for us, knowing our people would be protected, but now I hide in a cave as my body rots. Lich never cared for us. Find a better life. Find Gwalik. You know, Yahayo and I spoke about something not too long ago. It was the idea that all the stories end the same. I think she said as much in the library, right?
Yeah. It always ends with a lot of regrets and sadness.
When I look at these, I guess I've read a lot today with Garchinus and you, and as this one sort of brings it close to an end, I remember and realize that, well, we don't have stories like whenever we get closer to our time, like here, probably the most modern dating, they all start looking like this. From this person's birth to the very end, it all just seemed very, very predictable, I guess. Live, die, always affected by the Lich or the humans. At the very least, there were lots of nice names in here and lots of little stories I could appreciate. So much love and so much Gwal.
Yeah. I really liked the story, despite how it ended.
Yeah.
It reminded me why I did what I did, and I'm glad I left the Lich when I did.
Yeah. But yeah. Maybe we won't be making stories like this for too much longer. I can hope. Let's see. I see some more modern journals, but I don't think I have the constitution for that right now. What about this? This was interesting. It's, there were some logs that weren't kept by the Lich that got mixed in, that weren't about Goloins, I should say. This one seems to be of an expedition person that came into the mountain from some kind of, I don't know, some booming expedition. Maybe you can, if you could read that one, maybe it'll be a bit of a, maybe our last one we can afford before we have to head on out to do cooking duty.
Sure. This one seems interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not about us, so I'm really curious.
Yeah. Okay.
Our knightly order had sent us here in hope that we may slay the ungodly Lich, who calls these halls of stone his lair. Good luck with that. To this end, the best paladin from amongst our ranks was chosen to lead us, and ensure he may achieve our goal. He was presented with a mighty weapon, called the Bane of Unlife. Its blade can banish any undead or wraith. It has proven its power when it was used to erase the Tower of Bones, which terrorized my homeland for decades. Previous attempts had all amounted to nothing, but enlarging the tower with the remains of those who sent to destroy it. However, with the help of this artifact, the tower was completely annihilated. We believe it can bring the same fate to our new eldritch foe. Only the most promising knights were selected for this mission, and no outsiders were permitted to join us. Oh, paladins sound like a really strong type of boomin' soldier. I'm really curious.
Know. I'm not quite familiar when this happens, so I don't think I'm familiar with this story.
Yeah, me neither. I've faced and vanquished my first enemy, who by all right should have been long placed in eternal rest. Furthermore, I've witnessed the power of the sword that was bestowed upon our commander. Those tormented with false life were vaporized by it. I feel invigorated, and believe that our success is practically certain now, as not even one of us was injured in this battle. What could possibly stop us? This time we have faced monsters of flesh and blood. They fought fiercely, to the point that the blood of some of us was spilled. Still, we have not taken a single casualty. Of course we prevailed over them in the end. With justices on our side, we can't possibly lose. I pondered how the magical blade will fare against them. It seems even the tiniest scratch sends them to hell instantly, as their bodies fall lifeless. Surely it must be because of their sinister, inhuman nature. I was unaware that the blade could do that. Still, nobody else seems surprised by this. In the end, all it means is that we can dispatch anything that might stand in our way, no matter what form or shape the obstacle takes. We have been making quick progress, moving deep into the mountain, besting all opposition we met, until a single ambush of the unliving changed everything. We found ourselves surrounded by a large number of the long dead in a narrow passage. Suddenly, the magic of the sword turned against us. Due to enemy numbers and the small size of our battlefield, every animated corpse it touched turned into ash and dust. In our predicament, this created a fog so dense we could hardly see or breathe. In the confusion, while we attempted to avoid crashing into one another, we became separated, each fighting his own battle against enemies we couldn't even see, or maybe even allies we couldn't recognize. While our skills with melee weapons are the pride of our order, as we disdain guns and crossbows, in this situation we were unable to utilize our abilities. When the smoke settled, the 5 of us that remained witnessed true horror. Most of our number perished in that fight. The fresh blood on my halberd tells me that the chaos I must have struck one of my very own comrade in arms. I'm afraid there's nothing that can wash away this sin. This journal might be my only way of making an attempt at atonement. Worst of all, our greatest weapon and its wielder are nowhere to be seen. Where is our leader? We searched with all our strength, but in vain. The eldest in our group revealed that the Bane of Unlife is not just a tool for banishing evil. We must recover it. That is our highest priority. Unfortunately, there are no traces to follow. We are moving aimlessly through the caves. Is there even a slimmest chance we will find anything this way? Regardless of odds, we must push onwards. Whether the others have died in vain or not depends on us now. It is the only way which I can repent, even though there are so few of us left. If we can recover the enchanted blade, we might still succeed. The only things crossing our path are undead and monsters. Even though fruitless our endeavor, they are at a heavy cost. 2 more lives lost and my very own almost mortal injury. As I'm writing this down, I am on death's door. Many wounds mark my body, and it seems I've been poisoned. Although I doubt even 2 of my comrades who fare better will leave this place alive, so I'll attempt to pass on what I believe to be at most importance. With no chance at continuing our mission, we decide to withdraw and report our failure. In the end, even that prospect doesn't seem likely. We have ran out of supplies and are terribly exhausted. There's still a long way back ahead of us. We couldn't even locate the relic left in our care. At the very least, I pray that this message reaches someone, so that we may confess our defeat and ask for forgiveness, as well as beg to be avenged. I assume that whoever reads this is on the hunt for the Lich. I assure you that your fight can be made easier should you find what we have lost. If you truly come across it, beware. While it can kill monsters, it was not made for that purpose. It must never fall into the hands of those who abhor life. Maybe it is better lost forever. Is that why we were sent here? Is that the reason why he is gone? I desperately wish that is not the case. Failing to accomplish a noble quest is one thing, but learning that we are meant to perish all along is beyond what I can bear. Whatever the truth is, now the burden of knowledge rests with you. When we have abandoned all faith in this possibility, we have countered our commander. The magical weapon was never misplaced. It remained in his hands. Our joy from reuniting was short-lived, as without uttering a word, he had slain my last 2 companions. They died just as quickly as the beast we faced before, the ones cut with the accursed blade. I questioned and cursed at our commander, but he gave no response. After witnessing my sorry state, he didn't even bother to finish me off and simply set off in the direction of the exit. A correct assessment, I must say, as I could no longer walk or even lift my sword. May the one who lead us here perish in pain and never see the light of day. I don't understand anything anymore. All I may add is that now I find the old name of the magic weapon, the Bane of Life, to be far more fitting than the one we gave to it. It is a tool of destruction. Its only purpose, to extinguish all life, no matter what form it takes. Having finally learned that I have completely lost my own purpose. Wow.
I've never really heard of this. I've never seen anyone use this. I have to wonder if what they said right before the commander returned might have been correct. Maybe the commander realized that and decided they'd go rogue than rather die to get rid of the sword. I don't know. A lot of context is missing because throughout most of this, they were too blind to see what was happening directly in front of them.
Yeah. It leaves a lot to the imagination. Maybe the sword makes people evil, maybe the commander just thought it was evil and had to get rid of all the witnesses of it.
I don't know if a sword can make you evil, but I'd have to ask Garchinus. Maybe there's some kind of, Absin physical radiation effect? Maybe it makes you go a little crazy? I don't know. All I know is that it does. I might agree with their purpose. Sounds like a rather terrifying weapon.
I suppose anything can really make you evil, as long as it's incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. Now, I should say, they were calling us monsters before they even all came in here, sword or not, so maybe they just had a little bit in them already, you know?
Yeah.
Well, alright. I think we're running low on time, so we should probably get up and get going, don't you?
Yeah, we should.
Don't mean to leave it on a bit of a bummer note there, but maybe that's the best time to go be with friends and make some food.
Yeah, and besides, you probably got a story or 2 in you while on the way there.
Oh yeah, I could tell you some stuff directly from me, Etete. How about that?
Yeah,
It's a new kind of story, one that's gonna end super different. I pushed open the door.
Is it gonna end up with Gemqual?
No, maybe a little bit. I wrapped an arm around our cat and pulled her through the door as we went on our way, leaving behind the tales of our past for but a moment, carving at least one more for the future.
What you're about to read is a bit of a peculiar tome. It is a collection of surviving fragments from letters and the lifebooks of my mother and my own. This first chapter offers a Goloin's perspective of the Talmira Goloin town riot of my childhood, and some of the material that was used to bring corrupt warden-in-chief Roman to justice at last. It is a book that could not have existed 10 years ago when my mother's restaurant burned. At risk of overstaying my welcome, I'll leave you all with my own spin on a famous phrase. Goloins are the memory of the world, and only those who know they were in the wrong are afraid of memory. This work is made possible by the Association of Helden Goloin History and private donations by inhabitants of Goloin Town and Green Family.
Dear Basseret, Kanana helped me today with the restaurant, serving the tables. She did a good job with the regulars, but then some young humans came by, including Mayor Green's kid. Ah, my dear, how I worry about that girl and how she will ruin this business once I'm gone. She stared daggers at them all evening, and when one of them even suggested ordering some qual, she just about threw a tray out at one of their heads. I managed to fix things with a ration of mushroom croquettes on the house, and had her do the dishes from that point on. But I fear the temper of her causing a problem when I'm not there to step in. All I can hope is that she grows more sensible with age. After that, she left to go meet those new friends of her. I fear that they're being a bad influence on her, but I know I will only make things worse if I try to talk her out of it. Sometimes I wonder if you would still recognize your Kidyat from the cute little quiet fluffball she was when you were still here with us. You've certainly grown to be a handful, to say the least. In any case, things are going well around the neighborhood lately. 3 new families have moved in since my last letter, 2 of them from southern Paltrack and another from further up north. The Yao Yaos down the street expanded their shops too, which Talala complains about all the time when he's eating. He says the old building had character and complains the new one is too damn big, too damn clean, and too damn silent when you walk on the floorboards. I'm guessing the old goat gets bored now that he's retired because he spends most of his afternoons here. He probably misses talking about history with you. I hope things are well for you too. I wish I could see you. I miss you. With love, Akhenoptot.
Ugh. That walking pustule Greg and his gaggle of shithead human friends. They think they're such hot shit because he's the mayor's son, walking into our part of town, sitting down at a restaurant, and thinking they're so funny when they talk about ordering hard qual. I should have served them some and then watched them chip their teeth on it. Anyways, after helping out today, I went to meet with the guys. We had dinner out on the town. Oh god, Kevin Viniv?
Kevin Viniv. Kevin Viniv.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. It's Kevin in the Goloin
Yeah.
way. Kevin Viniv.
Yeah, that's really good.
It is.
Kevin Viniv?
Excuse you, it's Kevin Viniv, not Keniv Viniv.
God. Kevin Viniv had to leave early to go talking about going uptown to tag some walls tomorrow morning instead of our usual haunt. Just so they can't pretend to not see them the same way they pretend to not see us at all. We also spent a while talking about the role of Goloin in their world, how they need us for their paperwork, their mail, their accounting. We're the world's memory, but they made damn sure the world doesn't remember us. And when there are not enough small, forgettable jobs for us in those kinds of fields, then it's manual labor, crawling into those sewers too small for them, hauling cargo on and off boats, mining shafts where the air will kill you almost as fast as the cave-ins. We're going to change that one day. We're going to show them that we're done being crushed underfoot. I'm taking the fight to them, Dad, like I know you would have wanted me to. Hope you're doing good. Kanana.
Dear Basseret, I started this letter 4 times over already, so you have to excuse me if it's a little disorganized. It's been a mess of a day. Some trouble brewed at the good part of town earlier today, and the humans aren't saying anything about what this is all about. I haven't seen Kanana since, so I closed up shop earlier today and went with some other concerned parents whose kidyats haven't showed up yet. I left for uptown with 14 other Goloin parents and returned with only 10 of them. Whatever happened this morning, it was bad. The stairs we got on the way to the station were way, way worse than usual, and I'm pretty sure if there had been less of us, we might have gotten into a fight. Then, while we were trying to talk to the guards outside the station to let us see our children, all hell broke loose. I think one of the onlookers threw a stone at one of us, but ended up hitting one of the guards instead. They immediately tried to grab the Goloins that were up front, and they resisted. I'm pretty sure I saw old Palala Yayo take a bite out of the guard's fingers. The rest of us hightailed it out there as fast as we could scurry. I figured we'd have the guards on our doorstep as soon as I got here, but I've had time enough to write this letter. It does not make any less worried. I suppose I can hope that means the guards stayed behind and tried to...
Shit. Words, right words, calm down. If you could put it to paper, you can think about it. Find a way through it. Okay. So we went uptown to tag some walls like we were planning to. We got yelled up by some old man, but otherwise we were doing good. Until Greg showed up. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, trying to get up the same ledge we were up on tagging. Are humans just born idiots by default? Or did we just get one too stupid to realize he's like twice as tall as us? So Greg fell down. Like, at least a couple stories down. He started screaming. My boys started freaking out, and it looks like we pushed them, but I swear we didn't. The boomsmen showed up real soon, bagged me and my boys up, thinking we tried to murder the mayor's kid. They've got us in some cell in some fancy place I've never even seen before here uptown. Kev tried to run and got hit with something nasty with a boot. He wasn't looking so good. We tried to tell the boomsmen so they'd call for a doctor. We woke up late in the morning after some kind of big commotion outside. My neck is still killing me from sleeping on the floor. After a bit of that, it quieted down and they threw the parents of some of the boys in the cell next to ours. They were freaking out. We were freaking out. The boomsmen were really freaking out. Then some kind of emergency call came in and most of them left. And the weirdest thing happened. Greg, yes, that Greg, came in wheeled by some doctor-looking person and asked to meet with the head boomsman. Fucked if I know what he said in there. The rest of the boomsmen came back during that, looking weird. And then they let us go. Even the boys that resisted arrest. And the parents. Hell, they even got the guys who needed it, a medic, and gave us our life books and stuff back. Did Greg, of all people, talk some sense into them? Fuck. This should feel good, but it doesn't. I've seen the faces the boomsmen carried when they came in, and I didn't like it. This feels like guilt. Not them suddenly finding a conscience. I gotta hurry back home. Please be okay, Mom. Everyone. I really hope you're here, Dad. I could really use some advice right now.
To Warden-in-Chief Roman of the Southern Talmeria Penal Colony, Rebirth Road 31334. By now, you have rejected my petitions to visit my husband in jail 128 times. Once a month, every month, ever since he was put in prison. I'm sure you also never relayed to him a single one of these letters either, because that is the kind of man you are. A cruel bully that loves to use the law just as soon as you skip it, all to oppress and bowl over those you despise. In this case, that being the totality of the Goloin race. I know this, and that is why I've been writing the same letter twice every night for the past 10 years until today, when I only write and address this one to you. You might wonder, why would I do such a thing? What does that accomplish? It's simple, really. Consider who in your penal colony has to review letters without a proper address to be sent back or correctly sorted. That's right, imprisoned Goloins. Many of which were taken from their homes the same day as my husband under the delightfully vague charge of inciting rebellious action and destruction of property. I have been sending the same letter twice, once with the prison's address correct, and once without any address at all, and he has been receiving and reading all of those letters right under your nose, then sending them back to me. As you will surely have already been informed, those prisoners which you have transferred to prison in Palooza to have their sentences re-examined and revisited following the recent Goloin Town riot. And as it is your job to know, withholding personal letters from a direct relation when they pose no threat of escape is highly illegal, and it just so happens I have over a decade of carefully preserved letters that were dutifully returned to me, proving that not one of them contained dangerous information. So you might soon enjoy a stint behind bars of the prison you are so proud of. At the very least, you will be stripped of your position, so you can't inflict the same torment on any other Goloin ever. Should things go my way, I might even get a petty sum of reparation money to rebuild the Qua House with. And all of this as a result of a careful planning of short, stupid dits of a Goloin woman who would stick to cooking rocks, to put it in your own words. And I'm sure knowing that last part is what will hurt you most of all that I've conveyed to you in this letter. With all the respect you deserve, Akhenaten, mother of Kanano, wife of Bassaret, former proprietress of the Qual House.